So this is going to be a Manjaro Beginner's Guide. This is not going to be desktop environment specific, but more about Manjaro system itself. This video is kind of targeted at anybody that has just installed Manjaro or is thinking about installing Manjaro and wants to know why go with Manjaro. There's 1,000 distros out there. What makes Manjaro stand out? And while I'm speaking on this matter, I kind of keep in mind that I've been using Linux since 1998, 24 years ago. That doesn't mean I'm right, but I've seen things. So number one, it gets extra testing. That can be a double-edged sword, and I'll talk more about that shortly. Number two, it's got an awesome kernel manager that works great. And number three, last but definitely not least, one of my favorite things in Linux recently, Pamac. Pamac is awesome. Once you get used to it, you'll want it to follow you around on other distros, and not every distro has it. It is made for Manjaro, by Manjaro, and it's awesome. So let's get into that first one. We're going to talk about repository and testing. And I'm going to kind of go backwards, and we'll start on the unstable branch. Everything on the unstable branch is brought in from Arch Stable. As soon as it hits Arch Stable, it's brought into the unstable branch of Manjaro. And they're generally considered stable, as they have been vetted by Arch Linux QA and the Arch Linux community. So already you're getting, if you're on the unstable repo for Manjaro, you're getting the stable repos of Arch. So if you move to the unstable branch, you're running Arch. Yeah, you're basically running Arch. This is also the entry point for Manjaro's in-house applications. And the latest version of software will be located here. Testing. Testing branches snap from the unstable at irregular intervals, usually shortly after synchronization from Arch Stable. This branch is used for testing, or as a testing area for packages built by Manjaro developers such as kernels, kernel modules, NVIDIA graphics software patches, and Manjaro in-house applications. Sits around in testing for as long as they deem necessary. Sometimes a day or two, sometimes a couple of weeks. And then stable branch is pulled in from testing approximately 2 weeks after a sync from Arch Stable. So unstable, testing, stable, all happens within about 2 weeks. And right from Manjaro Wiki, not as bleeding edge as Arch. That is true, which in most cases is a good thing. There was recently an issue on an Arch update. Don't remember what it was, but it did cause problems, and they quickly had to fix it. And they did. A consequence of accommodating this testing process is that Manjaro will never be quite as bleeding edge as Arch. That is true. It is not bleeding edge, but you can see it from here. Unless you're on the unstable branch, and then you're basically running Arch. So enough about that. The double-edged sword part of that is Manjaro uses the Arch AUR repository that is not held back and tested for 2 weeks. So there is theoretically the potential of needing a package from the AUR, and that package from AUR needs a package that's in the stable repos of Arch and can build there, but is in the testing repos of Manjaro and therefore cannot yet build. And as long as you're using Pamac to build an AUR package, it will not break your system. It just won't install. So use Pamac. We'll talk about Pamac shortly. It's an awesome thing. Point number 2, kernel manager. And this is XFCE, but every desktop environment on Manjaro should have access to the kernel. And on this system and on KDE Plasma, it's a right click to bring up this menu, and then you can left click on kernels. But this is a kernel manager that is amazing. This is that kernel manager. It says Manjaro settings manager. You can get to the kernel from there. Right now, the one that is running is the 515, which is the current LTS, and you can install any of the above. If it's no longer supported, I don't think it shows up. I'm not sure, but the most recent one, the most recent stable kernel is 5.17. All you have to do is click install, hit yes, put your password in, and it will install that next kernel. Always keep 2 kernels on your system. The one that you want to run is the most recent one, and the one you want to keep as a backup is the LTS. And just like that, we have the brand new kernel installed. We don't have it running yet. That requires a reboot. By default, Manjaro will run the most recent, the highest number kernel by default, unless you tell it not to. Right now, running 515, it will tell you if that's an LTS, which it is, LTS. And always keep 2 kernels installed on your system, the most recent and the most recent LTS as a backup. The last thing I want to talk about is Pamac. When you open up the package manager, which is this is the graphical user interface for Pamac, not Pac-Man. This is Pamac. This is made by Manjaro for Manjaro. It is incredibly awesome. For one thing, you can go into the menu, to preferences. Here you have options. You can automatically download updates. Not 100% sure if that automatically installs the updates or not. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look into that. You have those options. Under advanced, you can remove unrequired dependencies. If you have maybe you had a required dependency on something previous and now it's no longer required, you can remove that automatically. Do not check for updates when installing. That means if you're installing a package and you have updates available, it will install that package and the updates. In this case, it will not install the package and the updates. Enable downgrade. That's pretty self-explanatory. And you can do ignore upgrades. For example, I do a lot of Godot game engine programming, and for just a little while, I put a freeze on Godot so it would not update, because I didn't want to have to go through the rigmarole of getting new templates and yada yada for releasing. So you could put a program or package into this ignored upgrades and it won't upgrade that package. And third party, you can set third party options. You can enable AUR support. You can enable Flatpak, and you can enable Snap. Manjaro does have the ability to use AUR, Flatpak, and Snap, all the above. So when you go to install a program, you can specify which one you're installing at the time of install. You could most certainly have Godot coming from the repos or AUR. You could have Inkscape coming from Flatpak. You could have Firefox coming from Snap. Not sure why you would do that, but it is possible. So I would enable AUR support. That will get you easy access to Google Chrome if you need it. That's my primary reason for enabling AUR. I do have a couple other things from the AUR, and it will immediately update that. Now, if you want to install Google Chrome, you can do so. Right there, Google Chrome. Something else that I would highly recommend you do is to remove Pulse Audio by default and install Pipewire if you want better sound, you want better sound options, you want to be able to plug in a Bluetooth headset. You will need Pipewire instead of Pulse Audio for that Bluetooth headset to have audio and microphone. Doesn't work on all Bluetooth headsets, but it's a beginning. So, and you can do that right from this right here. You can search Manjaro Pipewire. You can search for that, tell it to install. And then you can search for Wire Plumber. And you can tell that to install. It will download all the dependencies, and it will also remove packages that conflict with it. Just right here from the graphical user interface, you do not need to go to the terminal. However, I am going to go to the terminal and show you that as part of my Pamac experience. If you're used to, at least in some degree, using Ubuntu or some Debian-based distribution, you're familiar with apt-get or apt. So you would sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade, or you would sudo apt update, and then the next line you would sudo apt upgrade. With Pamac, it's 2 words to do all that. Pamac update. That's it. It will update your repositories and anything that needs to be upgraded on your system. It will do that from there. Just hit yes, and it will do it all. Pamac update. Pamac is awesome. The Pacman the Pacman equivalent is Pacman space hyphen uppercase S lowercase YYU. Rolls right off the tongue. Really. Outstanding. Just like that, we are done with the updates, with a Pamac update. So if Pamac update updates, how do you search with Pamac? Pamac search package. Say Inkscape, for example. How do we install a package? Pamac install package Inkscape. And you come up with an option like this. It is number oriented, so I want number 3 and number 4, so I'm going to select 3, 4. Outstanding. How do you build when you install something from the AUR? It's called building a package. How do you build a package with the Pamac? Pamac build package. Pamac build. Google-Chrome. Pamac is an amazing tool. And if you decide that you want to try it out and then you get used to it, you will miss it for sure. Now, I did specify that depending on which repos you're on, you could actually be on Arch, basically, mostly. If you want to run an unstable branch or if you want to run testing and report bugs that you find to Manjaro to help them out, on lowtechlinux.com, look for, on the side, Manjaro stable testing unstable repos. I have a very quick reference on how to change your repos to a new branch. You can follow one of the commands on this page and go into testing or unstable as you would like. Put that into the terminal and run it, and you will be on that branch. That is all for this video. I hope you found it interesting, or at least amusing in some aspect. If you like what I do here, please like and subscribe. Make an old trucker happy. Until next time, thanks for watching.